what I know is in the 6 months before we started doing paid advertising with you guys, uh, and the 6 months after, it's just night and day different in terms of our overall traffic. So it's just, I think, an important poll that we have to have in the water.
You're an inspiration to our entire organization.
Welcome to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast. We're going to be talking the done-for-you marketing and sales strategies proven to work with boutique fitness gyms to increase quality lead flow and grow your revenue. Don't try to be a professional marketer and waste tons of money. Let the experts at Lasso do it for you. And now, here are your hosts, Blake Ruff and Sherman Merritt.
All right, guys, here we go. Another episode of Gym Marketing Made Simple. I'm Sherman, as you know. Today we have a special guest, Dave Rubin from Courage Fitness Durham in the Durham, North Carolina, home of the Blue. Exactly. I know you're going to say that. See, I know you're going to say that. I know. See, I'm in Gainesville, so the Gators are like, it runs deep, It runs deep, so I get it. No, but seriously, thanks for
I'm
thanks for
excited to be
hanging out
here.
with
I
us today,
appreciate
Dave.
the
We're
opportunity
excited
to be here with you.
talk to you. For the people that may not know you, let's just start off. Give us a little, 2-3 minute snippet about you, the gym.
I'll keep it real
just give us
short
some
because it
info.
could be a long story. But I own Courage Fitness. We're in Durham, North Carolina. We're in August. We'll celebrate our 16th birthday. We've been a CrossFit affiliate that entire time. Prior to that, I worked for a major global gym brand for several years. So I've been in the industry myself, coming up on 30 years now. I have a degree in exercise science, but when I found CrossFit in the early 2000s, I really felt like that was going to be the future of the industry, which clearly it has been for a lot of us and for the industry itself. We started out, like I said, as a CrossFit gym. We started pivoting away kind of from what I call the Kool-Aid drinking CrossFit mindset and methodology probably in 2018, 2019, although we still are an affiliate, but we do things quite differently from how we used to do and from how I know a lot of my friends do in the same world. And now we do a lot more personal training, focus on one-on-one service and things like that. But like I said, we're coming up on our 16th birthday. So I've kind of been there, seen it all, done it all. Um, and whatever I could do to help other people is kind of my newest mission as I get kind of later on in my career here.
Yeah, that's cool. 16 years, that's a long time,
Yeah.
right? I've probably been doing CrossFit for about 16 years. I had my affiliate for about 13. We've seen so
Sure.
much, right? We've seen so much in this community, so we've seen it grow. We've seen
Oh,
some of the
yeah.
growing pains. We've seen some great things. So I like having owners on here that have sort of
Oh,
been through the
yeah.
trenches for a long time
We've
because
seen it. I've
we're
seen it. We were affiliate roughly number 500 or so, give or take. In our area at the time when we opened,
yep.
we were probably the third or fourth in the area, and then that was back in 2008. So
Okay.
obviously, folks listening, I'm sure know the explosion story. But I was there throughout the explosion. At one point in the mid 2010s. Around 2014, I opened a second location, and by I think 2016, I had four locations. And then, fortunately, pre-COVID, I divested in the other three locations. I just found them to be a big distraction, really, from the what I consider the mothership, which is Courage. And
Yeah.
luckily, I didn't have to navigate four gyms through COVID and all that came with it. But yeah, so I've seen the ups and downs and have bought and sold, have had multiple partners in different locations, had multiple partners at the same location, traded partners, sold to partners, bought from partners. So I've kind of been there and done it all. I've helped lots of friends kind of sell their gyms, evaluate their gyms for sale. That's kind of the stuff that, kind of pumps me up. As passionate as I am about the fitness element of what we do, I really, just by nature, and I'm an entrepreneur. I make it a kind of a personal hobby of mine. I'm very into personal finance, and I know you are too. But I really like helping people. Yeah, I like
Oh,
helping
there we
people.
go.
Make the most out of the money that they're taking home and trying to live a debt-free life, and you know, grow and have a legacy, not just for themselves but for their families and stuff. So,
Yeah, no, that's good. So I don't know how, but I didn't know that you were into
oh yeah,
personal finance. So, oh
yeah,
man,
yeah.
that's good to know. We won't make this
No,
podcast
but we
about that,
could.
but we're
Yeah,
gonna have
for
some more
sure.
conversations. Yes. No, that's good. So now tell me this, because you've been around for so long. You said that, when you first started back in '08, you were 4 or 5. Are any of those
That's a great
gyms
question.
still around from back then?
Of the original, if I include us as four of the original, I believe one other one is still in business. Might be on. It's definitely not on
Gotcha.
its original owner from that point, and it may even be on a third owner since then.
Gotcha.
The other, there's
Okay.
another of the four. One of them was based in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school, and I think they just kind of split at some point. So that gym might actually still exist, but and
Yeah.
then the other at the time was a boot camp. I mean, our area now, just like other kind of medium-sized cities, I'm sure around the country, I mean, we might have 60 or 70 affiliates, or at least at our height there
Yeah.
was, again, pre-COVID, we
Yeah.
were all in a
Yeah.
Facebook group all together, and it was countless. And what's interesting to me is that there was a period of time, especially like I said, back in the teens, where I could, if we laid out all of the local gyms on a map, or as like a family tree, a huge percentage of them had their roots traced back to CrossFit Durham, that was our name before we changed it to Courage Fitness back in 2019. But um, so that was kind of cool. There's a lot of CFD babies out there. Yeah,
I love it. No, that's cool. No, no, no. Like yeah, I love to hear that, because those were the proverbial good
yeah.
old days. I love it. I love it. So, Dave, tell me this. We've been working together for a little while. What made you
Mm,
reach out to us, like,
sure.
in the beginning? Like, what made you reach out? Because you have an
Yeah.
established gym. You weren't struggling for money. Your gym would have been just as fine had you not really worked with us, if I'm
Yeah,
being honest,
arguably, but yeah, we
but you
we
reached
reached out to
out.
you guys back last February, so we're just past about a year, right? What is that? 14, 15 months. And at the time, um,
Yep.
keeping it short, our story was going into March of 2020. Our gym was probably right knocking on the door of about 400 active members. And then COVID came, and everybody who's listening
Yep.
knows what happened with that. For us, it was a dramatic impact, just like I know it was for lots of others. Luckily, we kept open, we stayed open, but we were decimated in terms of volume and revenues and profits and things like that. So coming out of it, we did, and we were starting to regrow and starting to do things. I mentioned earlier, we had sort of started pivoting away from a more competitive, hardcore CrossFit style to a different emphasis day to day on trying to help a wider range of people, a broader range of people, more individual. Um, our approach. By doing that, though, that meant we changed some price points. Our barrier to entry became a little bit higher because we were providing a lot more individualized service. We were paying our coaches more. And so the growth back was
Yep.
not as quick as I would have liked it to be. So last February, um, we weren't doing any paid marketing whatsoever. We had a lot of guerrilla and just organic marketing. Our social media pages, our Facebook, our Instagram, were engaged, and we had a lot of content going out, but we weren't seeing a lot of return off it. And I had worked with some other companies in the past, marketing companies and whatnot in the past, where we had done paid marketing. A lot of it was self-directed, where I learned to do it, from the other company. And I had given up on it at one point because trying to keep up with the ever changing, Facebook, ad world, it was just a frustration. And I hated the
Yeah.
idea of spending money and, in essence, setting it on fire. So I reached out to you guys because I knew we needed to be doing paid advertising, but I was not confident in my ability to do it myself. I had toyed with the idea of looking for like a local, maybe social media intern, maybe someone at a local college, because we have so many colleges around here, maybe a marketing. And at the end of the day, I said that's not going to work either, because they're going to turn over every semester. There's going to be lots of trial and error. And I decided I just need to go to somebody who I know is going to be able to get results, who I can truly hold accountable for results, because I'll be paying them to manage the project. I had a couple good friends who were already
Yeah.
working with you, who were running a similar fitness model to us, which was sort of used to be CrossFit, but now was much more heavy on individual program design and individual one-on-one personal training. And they were raving about it. And I said, it's a no-brainer. And then, Sherm, you and I had known each other kind of from another, world back, a few years ago. So I knew of you and I knew what you were
Yep.
doing. And then when I spoke to you guys just about not only what you were doing to execute and the ABCs of the ads and how it's all going to work, just getting to know you guys a little bit and just saying, you know what, these are folks that I could trust. Um, good people, going to be financially sound, which, I touched on already is important to me, and would help make good decisions. Like this wasn't going to be just some kind of 6-week challenge thing that wasn't going to meet our normal message day
Yeah.
to day. Like that was important to me too, like was to try to figure out how could we not compromise on our message when it comes to fitness and lifestyle and helping people, and being able to work with guys who will be able to help us execute that without compromising on it. And so we hooked up
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
March,
No, I
and
think,
here we are.
yeah. No, I think, we hear this more and more. Obviously you and I, we've known each other for a little while, but I always forget how our community in general has sort of been, for lack of a better term, preyed upon by these type of marketing companies that, like you said, they come in, they do quick fixes, and maybe for a year they're all over the community, they make a ton of money. Then when it doesn't work, then they're gone. Like there hasn't been a ton of companies that sort of cater to our community, and then they stick around just forever. Like we're in
Yeah,
year 4 now. There's not many that sort of cater to our community that they stick around 4 or 5 plus years, like we plan on being
yeah,
around forever. But I like to hear that, that we can be trusted and stuff like that, because that's important to us. I think, and I'll let Blake chime in too. I think that when we first started this company and we were talking to people that didn't know us,
sure.
because obviously in the beginning, everyone that comes, they know us. But once we started talking to people that didn't know us, I was I was sort of surprised how many people would
Hmm.
be so apprehensive, thinking we had,
Hmm.
we were like used car salesmen selling
Yeah,
snake skin oil and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, like I see why, because our community has sort of been,
sure.
preyed upon to do certain things that get
Yeah, I
quick
think that's
fixes
like
and
the
not
one
long
big
term
thing, right?
results.
It's like marketing's like almost taboo, and like for like CrossFit, former CrossFit gyms, right? Like between, I won't mention all the names of all the companies, but there's two that come to mind very quickly. But, it's like one of those things. It's like, but also if you look at like the franchises, like that's all they do is market like 3 to 4 months before. So it's like,
Hmm.
hey, if the Orange Theories, the F45s, the Metabolic, the Solid Core, if they're all doing that and being successful, it's kind of like you want to do the things that are working for other people, right? And so,
Sure.
but it's just like this such a bad taste in people's mouth, and I think that's one of the big things that we didn't expect, but then come to realize really quickly is that like people just were very apprehensive, just because they felt like they kind of just got screwed, right? Like, hey, I did this bait and switch
Hmm.
thing, and yeah, I made some money, but not one person stayed, right? And I ended up with tons of
Yeah.
bad Google reviews, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing. It's like, yeah, those companies got you super cheap leads, but they made your company and your business look like horrible. But so finding, and I saw you put this in a post, is really aligning the copy with like what you do, right? Like that it doesn't feel
Sure.
horrible. Like when somebody comes in, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
like that's what we do. We're a strength gym, or
Right.
we're running this 10-week, boot camp style thing that like, and this is what the results, just like the ad said, right? So it's a cohesive message across the board rather than come try this 6-week free challenge. They come in, oh yeah, it's $500 up front. If you do this 67 things, you get your money back, right? And then
Sure.
they don't
Shots
they don't get
fired.
their
Right.
money.
Shots
Well,
fired by
I'm
Blake.
And
Shots are
sure
yeah,
he
fired by
doesn't
and
Blake.
we
listen to our
ran that,
podcast.
yeah. Well, we worked through that several years ago, and we had quote unquote success with it until we didn't. But again, one of the reasons we went away from it was ultimately the folks coming in, it wasn't, we weren't fulfilling what we wanted to fulfill for people, and now we've even over the last year, like we've had challenges, as you guys know, we've worked on, like there's got to be a balance between what is the message that we are putting out to the world, what are we talking to people about, and you putting together a campaign for us that speaks that message but also still drives traffic, right? Like and what I appreciate working with you guys is you're not just coming to me and saying, look, Dave, our only option to get you a quantity of leads for the value money that you're spending is to we have to say it's a 6 week this, or we have to say it's 30 days free, or it's a 1 week. You've been willing to say, well, what is it we are trying to do in our four walls, which may be different from some of your other clients, maybe even a lot of your other clients, but we've worked on it to make it work. And I could still defer to your advertising expertise, your Facebook, Instagram expertise, and but still have some control over the message. Whereas I think, like we were talking, some of the other folks that we've worked with in the past, it was, this is the message that's going to drive traffic. Even if it doesn't match up with your in the gym message, deal with it, right? Drive the traffic and then deal with it when it comes in. And what we found was we could do that. We actually had pretty good success, probably better than some others, but the staff wasn't cool with it. The staff was getting burned out with it, right? Because there was turnover. There was a lot of difficult conversations because there was a lot of explaining why what they clicked on wasn't actually what we did. It's just something we put out to get you to click. But hey, now that you're here, Sherm, let's actually talk about what's really important to you. And now we don't do that. So, and we've had to maybe make that trade-off. We've had that conversation where, hey, we may not get now as many clicks, as many leads, but when they do, you made the click, you made the inquiry because what our post said, or what our ad said, or the video said, or the picture of the person looked like, inspired you to say, that's a place that I want to know more about. Not, I want to take advantage of this free this or this deal or whatnot, because we don't do deals and promotions. We pretty much have a program, and this is the program. So, that's one of the challenges that we've had in the past as well with what we even tried our own paid marketing is how do we get people to respond to it without basically just giving something away, because we try not to give stuff away other than information, when push comes to shove.
Yeah. And I think 2 points you made there, or 1 point, and then I want to ask you a question, is that like trying it on your own. Like I always tell gym owners, like it's expensive to try it on your own because you just don't know what works. Right. And we get to test things at scale with like 40 to 60 grand a month to figure out, yes, this does work. Right. So it's not like you're just throwing, like you said earlier, like just throwing money and just burning it basically. Like that didn't work. Let's try this. That didn't work. But I think one big thing, you have such a big gym, like you said, like 400 members at one point. I think one big, and Sherman, you can correct me if I'm wrong, like I think a huge misconception is that like big gyms don't need marketing, right? Is that like, oh, we're crushing it. Like you text us one, like you're doing over 100K a month, right? Like you're crushing it. So why do you, and I think this is because I don't want it to come from me in Sherman's mouth, but like, why do you feel like a gym your size you're successful, that like, I mean, you're in the top 1-2% of like the gyms we work with, right? Like, why do you feel like other gym owners that have these great gyms actually need marketing?
Well, I mean, I think for us, we're in a small southern city, but it's a city nonetheless, and it's a growing area. I mean, even within a couple blocks of us, there's construction cranes everywhere, all kinds of high rises, apartment buildings, condos going up. But if we just solely relied on our 16 years of history, or waited for referrals, or just hope that people would know where we are, because our city's not that big. So, 5 blocks, but we have the experience all the time where people don't know where we are. And we've been here literally in the same location for 15 of our 16 years. We're on a busy street in our town, like where people come for bars and restaurants and a music venue. Our Central Park, where the farmers market is, literally 3 blocks away. Like anyone who lives in our town, it makes me shake my head when they don't know that we exist, but that's just human nature. Yep. So the paid marketing I just think is just a pole that we have to have in the water. Like it's certainly not the only thing that we're relying on, and even over the last, let's say 90 days, just as an example, I'd say a third of our new members have come from direct line paid marketing. Obviously, there's a lot of indirect lines there too, but a third are coming from referrals. A third are just showing up through our front door or saying they Googled us, which I understand probably means they may have seen us somewhere else, including on Facebook or Instagram, paid or organic, and then they went and Googled us or found their way to our website. But what I know is in the 6 months before we started doing paid advertising with you guys, uh, and the 6 months after, it's just night and day different in terms of our overall traffic. So it's just, I think, an important poll that we have to have in the water. And, I've had a lot of people ask me, including on my team and other gym owners that I work with in a mentoring group that we're in, like, well, how do you, maybe it's not worth it anymore. Like, you guys are rolling, like, why keep it? And at this point, to me, it's just a no brainer because it's basically become a fixed cost for us. And I would not want to, at this moment anyway, risk not spending the 2,500 or so dollars a month that we're spending, thinking that now we don't need it anymore. The word of mouth has now grown enough, because I know that I risk just shutting that valve off, that valve that sometimes goes from a water hose to a fire hose, depending.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to just shut that off. So I just think it's an important element to have. Now, I will say we've seen increasing success with our paid ads when our organic marketing efforts have gotten better.
Yep.
Our organic social media is better now than it was 6 months ago. It's actually better now than it was 3 months ago. We kind of made a pivot, you guys know, like even with you guys with the paid ads
Yep.
about almost 3 months ago.
Yep.
Well, we made sure we changed our organic social media at the same time, again, making sure that those messages are actually linking up and matching. We've gotten better at our referral network. We've gotten better at our just neighborhood outreach, right? For making contacts and trying to set up, marketing events and things like that. But I would not leave the paid out of it. I just think it's just too important. It's a leg on the stool, and at this point, I wouldn't sacrifice it again.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I like that. Blake and I, obviously, we always tell the people we think it's so important. Obviously, we're slightly biased, but when you have a business, you don't want to rely on one thing. You don't want to rely on so when you can have multiple sort of, like you said, poles in the water, it's just better all around. And sometimes, like sometimes you may get hits from pole A. Sometimes it may be pole B. Sometimes, but overall, over the long term, everything works out, and you catch more fish by having more poles in the water.
That's it.
And that's what I really like about it. So no, that's good. Dave, so tell me, because you sort of mentioned this earlier, how you've been able to pivot, because Blake and I, we aren't, like, in our team, we're not married to, the only thing that we're married to is you being successful. Now, like Blake mentioned earlier, we spend X amount per month. So we get to test stuff, photos, blah, blah, blah. We know stuff that works quickly. We know it works well, but we're not married to specific photos or specific programs. I like when you said, well, we sort of pivoted. We talk to you guys. You give us our opinion. We give you ours, and then we come to a conclusion, and then we go from there and make it work. Then if it doesn't work, like if you wanted to do something that we didn't think would work, we would tell you, Dave, I don't think this is going to work. But if you really want to try it, let's give it a try. Maybe we're wrong. And I think a lot of people aren't really used to that, right? They're used to the, like you mentioned, one size fits all, get in, shut up, hang on, and deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, that has been my experience in the past, and I get it. There is a bit of a fine line, definitely a balancing act, because the algorithms are going to reward certain behaviors online, right? Like they're going to show certain things, they're going to show more of it when certain things get clicks. And the trick is, and this is what I think we've been able to figure out with you guys, is not, again, compromising on our message overall, but still getting the benefits that come with advertising on social media. We have to be able to do that, but without feeling like we're selling our soul, or selling snake oil online, but then when they come in saying, actually, don't worry about the snake oil, here's the real thing, and it doesn't match up.
Yeah. No, I like that. No, I like it. So, tell me this, what has been something that you've noticed, because you sort of mentioned it earlier, you notice that overall traffic just increases, because at times, like you said, people are asking you, well, is it worth it? And this and that. You're like, well, I know for a fact, overall traffic has increased. And Blake and I, we tell people that all the time. That's why we like to sort of track
Yeah.
some metrics a few months beforehand so we can say, okay, this is what you were doing. Now you're working with us. Now there's a 25% increase over the last 4 months. Let's not get into let's not get into, well, this person didn't come from the ads and this person came from here. Guys, there's going to be an increase overall. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's for me, maybe it's because I've been around for long enough, but and where others haven't, but
Yeah.
there are definitely times, months, weeks, maybe even a couple months where you can't draw perfect straight lines from this was a Facebook lead, now they came in, they made an appointment, they did their tour, whatever, discovery call, free session, and then they signed up. There's times where there's not a lot of those direct straight lines, but at the same time, if there's enough people enrolling to keep the business moving in the direction that we want it to move, I just know and have faith that a big part of that is our presence online. And I'm very aware of the limitations that, the social media platforms put just on generic content, organic content. I mean, I could see our views and, our interactions and things like that on our Facebook and Instagram posts. And even when we have made pivots on our own, try to put out better content, it's limited. I mean, the audience is limited, and then they further limit the audience just based on what the content is. So I don't know if it's a matter of maturity or just having been in the business long enough to just know it just has to be there. And being, there's putting your brand out there and people have to see it a certain number of times. And I'm sure you guys know those metrics way more than I do, but I do recognize that when someone comes into us and says like, oh yeah, I just walked by, but I've seen you guys for years, or I think I looked you up on Google or went to your website, the likelihood is they saw us on social media too. They may not draw that line in that moment, but I'm willing to accept that that's probably the truth. For us, when we first kind of started back with this again a year or so ago, we had previously done paid marketing where we were investing a decent amount of money, and then we had stopped. But I feel like I saw the result of that, which was a drop off in our growth in that period of time. And then when we started again, I saw the growth pick up to a point where I wanted it to be. So at this point, there's a little bit of blind faith. There's also a little bit of just knowing that this is an appropriate thing to do. I don't have to see direct lines in large numbers necessarily for me to feel confident that it's the right thing to be doing. I do feel like we are constantly still working with you guys, though, to, again, like we said, make sure that the message that's going out in the paid ads is similar to the message that's in our organic ads. And even more important, it's similar to the words that come out of our mouth when we actually see somebody face to face or on the phone. And I feel like as long as we're doing those things and the messages are cohesive and there are a steady number of leads coming in that are, relatively affordable, that it's just something that has to be there. And, if we were in a position where, investing a couple $1,000s a month just felt scary because it wasn't there, I maybe I would have a different approach to it. I might have a different mindset, but for those that are in that, for those that are in that position right now and are trying to maybe take their gym to the next level, it would be worth it it would be a risk worth taking, I think. Even if it was something that they just said, look, just try it for a couple months. I mean, I've had friends come and get started with you guys. And they've been happy with it. They saw benefit right out of the gate. And they had been doing some other marketing, maybe even paid marketing, on their own or with others. And I told them like, it's not cheap, but your membership's not cheap either, right? And what do we tell people? You get what you pay for, right? You could go to $9.99 at Planet Fitness, or you could come spend $199 maybe a month here, or you might spend $99 for a 1 hour session with one of my guys, personal training. So you do get what you pay for. In most instances, if you don't invest the money, then you probably can't expect much of a return. I could say in this case, we're investing some money, but I feel like the return is there. And I don't get too hung up myself personally in the exact nickel and dimes of it. I don't every month say, well, we spent $2,400 this month and we signed up X number of people and it's this much of a return and it's worth it this month, because I know that next month that math may be a little bit different and I don't want to get turned off to it, because I know in the long run, this is the responsible thing to be doing. And I just know I have to stay interactive. Yeah. And we just have to stay diligent.
There's so many people that are like, I need a 2x investment, like return on my investment month one. You're like, where in life does that happen? Like, what investment have you ever said, here's $2,500, I need $5,000 the first month?
Right.
Because you would keep doing it. And like, we were just on a call the other day and the guy's like, well, it just doesn't make sense. And I was like, all right, hold on, let's do the math here. So how much is your membership? Let's say it's $200. All right, how long do they stay? 11 months. I'm like, okay, that's $2,200. So if you put in $200 into the machine and you got $2,200, how many times would you keep doing that? Well, and like you're looking at the numbers month to month. You're not looking at over the course of the growth. And I think that's, I don't know if it's just the gym industry or just like new business owners. They look at everything like today, like what did I put in, what did I get out, rather seeing that, like extrapolating it and seeing the growth, right? They're like, oh, well, this is making sense. Even if I net 4, right? Like that long-term value is going to be super high.
Yeah, I think it's definitely relatively common here in this space for folks to be sort of short-sighted, and some of that may be out of necessity. They may be running a very tight budget, 1 month to the next. The other thing is, I think folks fail to maybe realize and recognize that getting somebody sold is, that's really step one in the whole process. You have to be able to keep them. You have to be able to service them. You have to be able to keep them happy, so that, using your example, Blake, like if the average is 11 months, cool. What can you do to maybe push that? Right? Could you push that to 12 or 13, 14 months? Or how can you ensure that your average is substantial enough? Because I do think you can get in trouble with that math sometimes, right? To say, hey, if I spend $500 this month, well, that's only this month. That would mean the equivalent, right? That means if I sign up 2.5 people, that covers itself this month. I think you get into trouble with that math sometimes if you're not doing the right things on the back end. Right? Because I could say, hey, if I spend $5,000 this month, well, that's, what's that? Will that bring in 50 new members? Okay, it might, right? This is the challenge I think some folks have had when they get huge influxes of people running some different types of promotions. If you can't service those 50 people, what's the chance that they're going to hit your 11th month average or your 8-month average or whatever, your average life member may be? So it can't just be looking at the number on in the month from 1 month to the next. And there has to definitely be some patience. This is not a quick fix type of thing. I know I've heard you guys say like, hey, if Lasso is going to be kind of your last Hail Mary, we might have to have a deeper conversation before moving forward, right? Because you have to have some patience when you're doing paid advertising. It's not all, spend $2,000 and now your life is better and you saved your gym if it was in trouble. That might be the case depending on, what was missing, but the likelihood is you just have to have some faith and make sure you're doing all the right things after the fact once people come in and sign up.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that was great. I think we're gonna stop it right there because this has been great, right? You've given people some real stuff to think about, right? You didn't hold back anything. You were being honest with them. Like, I love that. So, I'm just going to say, Dave, thanks for hanging out with us, man. This was great. And
yep, I appreciate being here.
Yeah, no,
and getting the opportunity.
So if you guys want to find Dave, he's been around for 16 years and you're in the community. You can Google him. You can Google his gym.
You can probably Google me. Yeah.
Yeah. You
can hit me up at Courage Fitness Durham. You can find us there on Instagram, or I don't remember what my personal Instagram handle is, but you can find me at Courage Fitness. And I love talking about this stuff. I mean, again, for me, I'm 16 years in this particular business, but almost 30 in the business. I'll be 50 in a couple years. Like, I don't think I'm going to do this forever. So I'm definitely at a phase in my life where if I could share some of my experiences over the last 16 plus, years and even in the Globos prior, I like doing that, especially for, the younger owners, the more novice owners and things like that. So if anybody ever wants to reach out, they're welcome to.
Look at that. And we'll end it on that, guys. So as always, guys, tell a friend to tune in, and we will chat with you guys next week. All right.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast with Blake Ruff and Sherman Merricks. We hope you enjoy. We believe marketing should increase revenue and not waste money. So book your free call today. Head on over to lassoframework.com. That's lassoframework.com and find the right words, get more customers, and increase your revenue. We'll see you here next time.